in this episode. In this podcast, we discuss about the causes and top ways to prevent fogging. Although this might be the most obvious technique, I do not suggest it much now during the pandemic. Now, I do know of occlusal mirrors which have an inbuilt fan or a blower with LED lights. Before opening the sterilization pouch of our autoclave mirrors, we just place it over the heating bag to warm it a bit. I would like to wish all my listeners a Merry Christmas and a very Happy New Year 2021. You're listening to the Dental Photography School podcast, where I'll be sharing practical tips on clinical and general photography. I'm Dr. Mayur Dauda, and I've been coaching dentists and dermatologists on clinical photography since 2013. If you don't want to miss out on any action, make sure to subscribe to my show because I release an episode every Saturday morning. Fogging of the intraoral mirror due to exhalation is one of the most frequently faced problems during documentation of intraoral images by a dentist or a dermatologist. In this podcast, we discuss about the causes and top ways to prevent fogging. This podcast episode is also available as a free PDF download. If you wish to download the PDF, I'll be putting the link in the description. For now, let us understand fogging. In intraoral documentation, we frequently use mirrors to record our cases in indirect vision. When we place a mirror inside the mouth, the mirror gets fogged, and this could challenge a good result with respect to photography. Fogging is basically condensation which results from a heavy amount of intraoral humidity and a temperature change from room temperature to intraoral temperature. It happens if the patient exhales when the mirror is placed intraorally and results in blurred images. Here are the top ways to prevent fogging. Number 1. Using a three-way. The dental three-way syringes are the best way we can get access to compressed air. It displaces the moisture and keeps the mirror at room temperature, thereby preventing moisture. If you have a booster in your dental chair, you can turn it off, which will minimize the chances of water droplets coming along with air. Note, although this might be the most obvious technique, I do not suggest it much now during the pandemic. Another reason is usually small water droplets come out along with the air, which would not be seen with the naked eye, but it might be seen in images. Number 2. Rubber dam. The best way to prevent fogging for a dentist is using a rubber dam during operative procedures. The only drawback is that it's a bit time consuming and can be used only for operative procedures. This obviously is not an option for a dermatologist or someone who wants to record intraoral lesions. Number 3. Using a mirror with an inbuilt fan or a blower. Now, I do know of occlusal mirrors which have an inbuilt fan or a blower with LED lights. The blower's air displaces the moist warm air and helps prevent fogging. I cannot name the company here because I do not have permission for the same, but the cost of one mirror is more than the entire magic box, which is the complete kit of accessories for intraoral photography, which has all the mirrors, contrasters, cheek retractors, and even an 18% neutral grey card. If you wish to have a look at the magic box, log on to dentalphotographyschool.in. You can also purchase it online. Number 4. Special anti-fogging sprays. Now, I do not know the content of the sprays, but I've heard some of them have a surfactant, while others are silica-based liquids and they prevent fogging. Available on popular e-commerce websites, I would suggest to exercise caution if you want to use it for clinical purposes, because the product might not have an approval for use in clinical situations. Number 5. Special anti-fogging sticker films. They are transparent films which make the mirrors anti-fogging. Once again, I've never used them. They are actually made for car windshields, but you can use it and stick it on the mirrors as well. Number 6 is the ideal technique, which is pre-warming the mirrors. I always suggest my course participants to use this technique. We pre-warm the mirror on a heating bag of any sort. We use the electronic heating bags used in physiotherapy because they are very easy to use. They heat up instantly and stay warm for a long time. Before opening the sterilization pouch of our autoclave mirrors, we just place it over the heating bag to warm it a bit. When it heats up to a temperature approximately enough, as much as lukewarm water, we remove the sterilization pouch and place it inside the patient's mouth. Since the mirror is now warmer than the intraoral temperature, fogging does not take place on our mirror. Please note that it's extremely vital to inform the patient that we will be placing a warm mirror inside the mouth for photography. This is just to avoid startling the patient who might mistake it as a hot object. Failure to inform might lead to unnecessary complication of sorts. Number 7. My most used technique. I never use any of the aforesaid techniques for the simple reason that some of them need extra things to be used or an extra set of hands. I set my camera settings perfect. That means I set the shutter speed at 1/100 to 1/200th of a second. My f number, which is required for photography, I usually do not change f number a lot. I usually keep it at around f22 to f29. And I keep my ISO at 100. Then I move on and set my lens. So the lens has to be set as per the magnification ratios. So if I want to take a picture of, say, a single quadrant, my magnification ratio would be 1:1.5 if I'm using a crop sensor DSLR, or 1:1 if I'm using a full frame DSLR. If I am recording an area as big as a full arch, I would probably want to keep it at 1:3 for a crop sensor DSLR and 1:2 for a full frame DSLR. Once I have set the magnification ratios, I move on to set the flash power. If I'm recording a full arch kind of an area, I would prefer to keep my flash at maybe a half power or a full power. If I'm recording an area as big as a quadrant which has 3 teeth or something like that, I'd probably keep my flash power to half, because that would be enough for my f number settings. After I've set all of these, I'm sure that I'm going to get an ideal exposure. Once all is sorted, I compose the image nicely, and then I start moving away from the subject to get it into focus. When I am in focus or I'm close to focus, I request my patient to stop breathing for a few seconds, which is usually around for 5 seconds. That's the time I require to make an image. This usually does not lead to any fogging, but before I do any of these things, I make sure that my patient's mouth is open for at least a minute so that the intraoral temperature reduces slightly and the moisture gets a chance to escape. This is all we have time for in this episode of the Dental Photography School podcast. I would like to wish all my listeners a Merry Christmas and a very Happy New Year 2021. If you like my work, please subscribe to my podcast and suggest it to your friends as well. Have a great New Year, and I hope that the New Year brings in good health and prosperity and a lot of success for all of my listeners. That's all we have time for in this episode. If you are getting benefited from my tips, do show your love by leaving a rating and a review. For tutorials on photography, do check out my channel Dental Photography School on YouTube. To participate in contests and live events, join the Dental Photography School Facebook and Telegram group. You can follow me on Instagram as Mayur_EOS Maestro or Dental Photography School. I'll meet you next week. Till then, keep listening, keep sharing.